Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Tea for Travail. My name is Melody, and this is House of Hosting Heaven. Tea for Travail is our podcast, our in-house podcast, where we sort of talk about trending topics and try to give them a Christian perspective. I am curious to find out, what are some of the dinner table conversations happening in your homes concerning this story right here, as you can read in the title. What an interesting turn of events. At the beginning of this week, we had a completely different narrative altogether. Many of us were praying for this young woman, and here we are. We're finding ourselves doubting many of the things that we had believed at the beginning of the story. If someone is listening to this and has absolutely no clue what I'm talking about, let me give you a very quick summary of the conversation at hand today. Carlee Russell was a 25-year-old, still is a 25-year-old student nurse who on Thursday last week, Thursday the 13th, disappeared on her way traveling on the interstate road. I'm actually quite curious, if you stay in the United States, what is an interstate? Because I'm from Africa. I'm right here in Johannesburg, born and raised in Zimbabwe. I have no clue what this word means. So please, in the comment section below, educate us. Carlee then claimed that she had identified a young white male toddler on the road. And mind you, this is pitch dark evening. We can't see much on the road, but she claimed that she had seen a young child on the road, and so she stopped and tried to obviously find out what was happening, as many of us would. It is said that Carlee then called the police, and we have a voice record of the police conversation that's happening between her and the person on the other end. And essentially, she describes that she's seen a young boy and she wanted to find out what was going on. She said she hadn't come out of her car, so she slowly starts tracking this child as she's talking to the police. At some point, Carlee stops, and it is said that when she opens her door, she sees the toddler, but she also sees a grown man behind the toddler. He's a red-haired male, and she says that the gentleman says he's checking on the toddler, and at that point it seems a kidnapping takes place, and she's taken to an 18-wheeler where there is a female in the 18-wheeler and a young baby in the 18-wheeler. She claims that there wasn't any sexual assault that took place, but there were pictures of her that were taken in that 18-wheeler. Carlee then says that at some point she tries to run away. She succeeds in running away, but then the man follows after her and takes her back into the 18-wheeler again. On this second trial, this is when the man then takes pictures of her. She then attempts another escape, which then becomes successful. Now, if you have been following this story, you are aware that there were a lot of discrepancies that were now later found out concerning her story. But before we even get to that, I cannot even express the amount of support that this young woman had from the whole nation, literally. I think there was something quite compelling about this story, in the sense that this was a young woman who was trying to make something out of herself. She was Black, she was a student nurse, and she was trying to rescue a young child. This story definitely pulled on the string of mothers. It pulled on the string of people that are really, that really do a lot of advocating for race issues. So she had a lot of people on her side. Searches began to take place, and a lot of resources were pumped into searching for this young woman who at this point, according to the reports, was potentially kidnapped. We didn't know if she was alive. Many of us were praying for her. We're now finally here where we are learning a few things about what actually really transpired during those few hours and in the next 2 days when she was missing. So after Carlee escapes for the second time, she manages to walk home. And obviously there's been questionings that have been taking place and a lot of internal investigations that have also been taking place. And these are some of the findings that we are now learning concerning this issue. We're learning that while Carlee was making the call to the police, when she said she had identified this toddler, she tells the police that she is slowly driving as she's tracking and following this young toddler. Obviously, a toddler is not going to run. A toddler's speed is going to be a toddler's speed. We are learning that Carlee actually drove 600 yards, potentially leading us to believe that Carlee was lying. because just for context, 600 yards is about 6 football fields. That's like 6 soccer fields for people in Africa. It just doesn't make sense that you're following a toddler and a toddler is walking that much distance. We then later find out that when Carlee finally encounters the police after she comes back home, we are finding out that she had about 107 US dollars. I was about to say rands because I'm in South Africa, but we're learning that she's found with 107 US dollars in her socks. And after all the activity that she's described concerning her 48-hour capture by this man and this woman and a young child in an 18-wheeler, it doesn't make practical sense that she still had money in her socks. We're also learning that there was quite a lot of internet searches that Carlee actually did through her phone. These internet searches do not do well for her case and her cause at all. We're finding that Carlee made a search on the movie Taken. We're finding that Carlee was searching for a bus ticket out of town, which inclines us to believe that she always had an intention to actually leave town anyways. We're finding that Carlee is also making searches with regards to how old a person needs to be for there to be an Amber Alert. And I'm just going to put what an Amber Alert is right here for people that might not be aware of it. But it sounds very suspicious. It looks extremely suspicious for someone that then ends up getting missing to be searching for these things before the supposed kidnapping. We're finding that she's also very curious to find out if someone needs to pay money for this Amber Alert. Something here just is not adding up. One of the compelling things that I also found on this case is the fact that as apparently she's walking towards her home after she finally has escaped and she's walking close to home, we are finding that a neighbor has produced footage of Carlee, the timeline when Carlee walks back home, and it is said that she is casually walking as though nothing much has really taken place. And the closer she gets home, the more frantic she becomes. Somebody might say that somebody that is currently going through a state of trauma can behave in very traumatic kind of behavior. But some people are saying, well, maybe she just was out of character a few minutes before getting home. And a minute before home, she had to step into character so she could piece together this whole interesting charade that she was trying to pull together. Police also say that they have a lot more searches that they are not yet able to disclose, which can help us sort of ascertain the kind of space she was mentally and, sort of what kind of demons was she fighting? What is this young woman trying to run away from? What is she trying to achieve? What's the motive for this whole charade? Why, Carlee, are you putting yourself in this position, but also putting the whole nation in this position? So now that we have that out of the way, I'm very curious to find out from some of you who have been following this story. Now that there is quite a huge possibility, I mean, honestly, this is us trying to be prudent, but it's not looking good. What are some of the dinner table conversations that you and your family have been having around this space? From a Christian perspective, if it does come down to the fact that this young lady premeditated her own kidnapping and she made up this whole story as a Christian, what do you think should happen to her? Should she get fined? Should she be left alone and checked into an institution? Should she go to jail? What kind of recourse do you think is fair for this particular situation? I'm going to tell you, it's tough. The Christian in me wants her to be forgiven, and the Christian in me wants somebody to find her some very, very proficient help, sit her in front of a very, very proficient therapist so that they can try to figure out what's going on in there, because something strange is going on in there. But when I really also look at the amount of state resources that were invested in trying to get this young woman home, there is a part of me that wants this young 25-year-old woman to appreciate the gravity of what she did. And I need everybody else that's watching that could be tempted to go the same route to appreciate that there should be consequences, and they can be consequences to you waking up the whole state, the whole United States of America, all states, just so they can try to look for you while you are God knows where. The story is still unraveling. We're going to learn a lot more about the story. And so I'm curious to find out, what do you think is a fair measure for something like this? Do also let me know in the comment section if you would want me to redo another video on this topic when we find out what her narrative is concerning what happened and what I think about it. But anyways, listen, what do we learn from this story? I think for me, two scriptures stick out. There's the scripture that talks about there being nothing that is hidden under the sun that will not come out. The second one is the truth really does set one free. Take off the mask, stop the charade, and tell us the truth and nothing but the truth. I think that when someone unpacks their story, we are able to empathize and sympathize. I mean, we might still be a little bit angry that you used so much resources, state resources, but at least you told the truth. So I feel like this is a point where the only thing that's going to get her out of this this space that she is in right now is the truth and nothing but the truth. Because guess what? There's so much information that's being pieced together, and on a daily basis, the truth is figuring out, it's forcing itself out of the darkness. And I think that this is just the story of all of our lives. Every time that we've ever tried to hide a truth by imposing lie upon lie and creating narratives and stories that didn't exist, we found out that it might take time for the truth to come out, but the truth always prevails and it always comes out. The truth will always catch up with you. And like I said, there's nothing hidden under the sun. So far, we have so much compelling evidence that's speaking against this 25-year-old medical student, nursing student, and I am more than sure that there's going to be a lot more evidence that the FBI is going to be pulling up. And it's very sad to watch as it unravels. Let's have a conversation in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this story. Did you pray for her? I've got to be honest with you, I didn't pray for her, but I wasn't also that much invested in the story for some strange reason. When I heard about it, I didn't feel any compelling in my spirit to pray. I didn't feel enough compelling in my spirit to actually put it in my prayers. So I'm curious to find out, were you and your family and friends praying for this young woman? And finally, what do you think is a fair and just end to the story? Enjoy your day, and I will see you in my next podcast. God bless you.